Gotta fill that coffee cup, caffeinated just enough. Stretch and send a prayer up for your kids and family to be safe, be strong, and be healthy. And one day that they be set free. But right now, you got a whole house of mouths to feed. Time is really running thin. Can you fit a breakfast in? Lucky if you see your kids. Deeper, take this moment in. Out the door and on your way. Off you go another day. Gotta be on time today and update that resume. Cause this recession is a test. They're making cuts. Now they want more for less. If you start to feel that extra stress, just do your best and leave the rest. Our ancestors did it too. Somehow they all made it through. Something that we all must do. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. You'll make it too. And in case nobody told you on your job today, and in case they didn't tell you on your job today, Las Cafeteras would like to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To mothers who sacrifice to make ends meet.
Thank you.
To fathers who faithfully take care of their seeds.
Thank you.
To farm workers, the food you harvest keeps us alive.
Thank you.
To teachers training their students to excel and survive.
Thank you.
From cooks, waiters, and bakers for our daily bread, to TAs, assistants, and those teaching special ed. Bus drivers getting us to work on time. For DJs, breakers, writers, and MCs who rhyme. Students with 2 jobs hitting those books at night. And the organizers bringing us together to fight. The little ones doing their chores and homework, and all those under and unemployed looking for work. Factory workers, migrants from distant lands. South Central farmers teaching us to work with the land. Construction workers building up the world with their hands. These days time passes faster than the quickest of sands. Workers in sweatshops, street vendors on each block, spiritual leaders in sweats, hot heat cleanses like detox, those working against addiction, fighting against eviction, the culture workers, musicians and artists on a mission to transform our community with care and conviction, to single parents making miracles each week, and to our elders for the truth and the courage you speak, to ancestors whose hard work paved the way, and to everyone who's out there doing labor today, to my indigenous people and our creator too. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, so thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Suzanne, and welcome to Navigating Labor Rights in California. We are so happy to have you guys here. Thank you for coming. I'm going to quickly pass it over to Naira, our interpreter, and she will let you guys know how interpretation is going to work for tonight. Naira?
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Naira Pacheco y mi cointérprete es Javi Infante.
Hola, mi nombre es Javi y mi cointérprete, I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Javi and my cointerpreter is Naira.
Los organizadores de este evento mantienen un compromiso fuerte a la creación de espacios bilingües para que más de nuestra comunidad pueda participar. Por este motivo, esta reunión se realizará simultáneamente en inglés y español. Así que favor de escuchar y hablar en el idioma que se sienta más cómodo.
The organizers of this event have a strong commitment to creating bilingual spaces so that more of our community can engage. For this reason, this meeting will be interpreted simultaneously in English and Spanish, so please listen and speak in the language you are most comfortable.
La interpretación ya está activada. Si usted está en su computadora, verá aparecer un globo en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Si está conectado a medio de su teléfono, va a haber 3 puntitos en la parte de abajo al lado derecho de su pantalla. Haga clic ahí y haga clic en interpretación de idiomas y seleccione el idioma que habla. Si por algún motivo el audio original suena más fuerte que la voz del intérprete, en cualquier momento puede silenciar audio original. Interpretation is now enabled. If you are on a computer, you will see a globe pop up on the bottom of the screen. If you are on your phone, you will see 3 dots on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Click on these and select the language you speak. If for some reason the original speaker sounds louder than the interpreter you are listening to, you can mute the original audio at any moment. Creamos estos espacios con el apoyo de todos. Favor de comunicar cualquier problema con el chat. We create these spaces with everyone's support. Please communicate any issues by chat. Thank you. Gracias y ya podemos comenzar. Thank you. We may now begin.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. So again, welcome to Navigating Labor Rights in California. This is presented to you by RISE Simi Valley, Buen Vecino, and the Labor Commissioner of the State of California. We are so excited to have you guys here. I'll just do a quick introduction of myself, and then I'll introduce the other panelists. So my name is Suzanne Lance. I am the Director of Community Outreach for RISE Simi Valley. We are very excited to have you guys here. We have some great information tonight and a presentation to show you. Also, just wanted to give a quick shout out to the music that you heard at the beginning, which was by Las Cafeteras. We also will be recording the event, so please keep that in mind. We will do an introduction of the panelists. We'll have a presentation, and then after that, we will do a Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, starting now, please drop them in the Q&A section, not the chat section. Wonderful. Okay. So like I said, I'm just going to briefly introduce everyone, and then we will have the presentations. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Lilia Garcia-Brower, Labor Commissioner of the State of California.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm sorry, let me just check in. Is this my introduction time? Okay,
Yes.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Buen Vecino and RISE Simi Valley for this opportunity. As I was introduced, my name is Lilia. I was born and raised in East Los Angeles. I am the granddaughter of a bracero. My family were farm workers. My mother was a garment worker, along with many other jobs. My father's 81 and continues to work in a factory today. So I come from a long line of laborers, and I'm very proud of that history. And I'm very proud of the opportunity to work with the Labor Commissioner's Office. You're going to hear from our outstanding team today who are going to share critical protections, explain how our office operates. Please, I encourage you to follow up with us to ask your questions. Let us know if you need to think through some options. We are available to be a thought partner for you. I want to review three main initiatives that we have at the Labor Commissioner's Office. The first one is our Reaching Every Californian campaign. This is a campaign we launched this summer, and this event tonight is a part of that. We are prioritizing reaching out to organizations like Buen Vecinos and RISE Simi Valley, who the Labor Commissioner's Office has not worked with before. We're prioritizing reaching trauma victims, individuals who are hesitant to engage government, and we want to build a base there. So thank you so much for this opportunity. The second initiative that we have is an increased wage recovery effort. So, you know, we issue a lot of decisions all year in the millions of dollars, but the reality is that there's only a fraction of that that's recovered. So we have launched an effort with Los Angeles County Sheriff to establish a judgment enforcement task force where we will focus on recovering judgments in LA County. He is going to prioritize the judgments from the Labor Commissioner's Office. If this is successful, we're going to take this on the road, and we're going to approach other sheriffs and hope to bring more resources to go after those bad actors that are refusing to pay workers what they're owed. The last initiative I want to share is we are increasing our criminal prosecution. We all know that wage theft is a crime and can in fact be criminally prosecuted by city attorneys, by district attorneys. And just on Monday, we launched an initiative with the San Diego District Attorney to increase referrals to the San Diego DA's office. And we are also in discussions with the LA District Attorney, with Gascon, to establish that same type of program. So I'm very excited for the opportunity to be here with you tonight, and that you're able to learn more about our office and what we do. The last thing I want to leave you with is just to really urge every worker needs to invest time to understand what your rights are. This is not something to leave for the lawyer, or my sister knows, or my cousin knows, or my best friend knows, because you have too much on the line. Once wage theft happens, once retaliation happens, the time is ticking and the legal system is pretty rigid. So it's important that every day you practice proactive steps that protect your wage, that protect you against retaliation. Because unfortunately, unscrupulous employers, law-breaking companies, they count on that you do not know your rights. So we need everybody to take that power, understand their rights, ask your questions, document your hours, keep your check stubs, know who you're working for, know where to find them. If you don't have that information, those are red flags. You should think about the employer that you have and make sure that you're taking your steps. So thank you so much, everybody. I look forward to hearing the next presenters.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Maria Montenegro, and I'm originally from Guatemala. I came when I was 16 years old. I'm a daughter of immigrants as well. My mom worked as a hotel worker, as a nanny. My dad did all kinds of work. He was a landscaper, he was a maintenance worker, he installed windows. He did a little bit of everything, and I'm so proud of them for working so hard for us. I have been with the Labor Commissioner's Office for a little over 4 years, and it's been amazing. I have been able to help my community, to educate employers, to empower workers, to help them know and learn about their rights as workers in California, regardless of immigration status. And I can tell you it has been a very rewarding career. And I am so happy to be here with you and share a little bit of my knowledge with you guys.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Patricia or Patricia Salazar. I go by Patty. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for your time, to the organizers of this event, and for letting us share information with you today. Like the Labor Commissioner shared and like Maria shared, I am a daughter of immigrants. My parents are from Mexico. My dad has worked in the fields since the age of 9. Came to this country and has continued to work in the fields all over the Southwest, Oxnard, Fillmore, and eventually made his way to a machine shop in the San Gabriel Valley, which is where I'm from. I'm here in LA County, and my mom has worked in a school cafeteria for our local school district. So I grew up in a very vibrant home with many questions around my parents' rights and their options. I was the interpreter from a very young age, the advocate from a very young age, and it really did, I think, set the stage for my legal career. And it's been an honor to work in the area of workers' rights for my past 12 years or so in practice. And I am honored now to have made my way. I worked in the Bay Area for several years in housing and workers' rights, and made my way home to LA, and have been with the Labor Commissioner's Office for 7 years. And it has been an absolute privilege. It keeps me motivated. It's never a dull moment. I learn something new every day, and it's one of the most rewarding experiences of my career. So thank you all, and thank you again for having us.
I guess it's my turn. Hi, everyone. My name is Sherrie Bell. I work with the Labor Commissioner's Office, been here for about 4 years now. I'm a native of South LA. Growing up working minimum wage jobs and not knowing my rights really was a disadvantage, for me. Like I wish I would have known when I was 19 years old, scrubbing the grill. They told me to clock out and keep scrubbing. I wish I knew I could have filed a wage complaint back then. But I do want to say it is an honor to be here. to be a presenter because I used to work as a community organizer and help organize events like this for members of the nonprofit I used to work for, the LA Black Workers Center. So it is really beneficial. I know that most people love to learn, and I'm glad that we are able to provide an opportunity for workers to be more well informed on not only their rights, but ways they can exercise their rights safely and feel empowered. So I'm just gonna cut myself off because I can be a rambler. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. We're so happy to have you all here. So what we're going to do is jump straight into the presentation, and then right after we will do the Q&A. So like I said before, if you guys have any questions throughout, please drop them in the Q&A section, not the chat. And again, thank you for being here. We're very excited to give this information to you. You know, it's relevant not only for you, but for others to know your labor rights in anywhere you happen to be working. So yeah, again, thank you so much. And we will get started with the presentation from the panelists.
Awesome. So let's get into business. Again, we are here from the Labor Commissioner's Office. As you heard, you will hear from Patricia, from Sherrie, and from myself. And we're going to start telling you a little bit about who we are. The mission of the Labor Commissioner's Office is to ensure legal compliance at every workplace in California. Yes, it is a really big task, but we are here and we are going to do it. So we have different ways on how to accomplish our mission. And one of the ways is through the wage claim adjudication. This is a unit within the Labor Commissioner's Office that adjudicates individual wage claims. We also have the Bureau of Field Enforcement. This is another unit which I have the privilege to be part of, that investigates an employer. We go out and we conduct inspections at every business in any industry. We also have the Garment Enforcement Unit, which is an individual garment claim and investigation unit that is specifically targeted to the garment industry. We also have the Public Works Unit. This unit is specific for construction, the construction industry, for different projects that have public money involved. And we also have the Retaliation Complaint Investigation Unit. And this unit is the one that investigates retaliation complaints. So whenever you exercise your rights as worker in California and your employer retaliates against you for doing so, that's the unit you want to talk to. So what do? We resolve wage claims, retaliation. We investigate companies for not complying with labor laws. And we also educate the public about protections and processes. And this is part of what we do. We usually have, right now we have about 600 team members within claim adjudicators, investigators, attorneys, administrative auditors, etc. And we count with 18 offices throughout California, from San Diego to Sacramento. So you can find us, call us, and we will be able to help you. And as you heard from our wonderful commissioner, one of the campaigns is Reaching Every Californian, which is educate and outreach campaigns, which is what we're doing right now. But I want to emphasize a little more in 3 of those units. The wage claim adjudication unit is the one that adjudicates wage claims on behalf of workers who file claims for non-payment of wages, for overtime, vacation pay, and other labor laws pursuant to Section 98 of the California Labor Code. So let's say my employer is not paying me the overtime. He is not giving me the 30 minutes for my lunch. Different little things. I can call, I can file a wage claim, and this unit is the one that will help me through that process. Also, we have the Bureau of Field Enforcement. Like I stated before, we conduct inspections at work sites, and that's with the purpose of investigating and enforcing compliance with laws regarding the minimum wage, overtime, and other labor laws, including all affected workers. So the wage claim adjudication part is what we call an individual claim. The Bureau of Field Enforcement claim, we will include all of the affected employees, current and former, within the statute of limitations. Also, the Bureau of Field Enforcement will enforce the workers' compensation insurance laws. So if the employer doesn't have workers' compensation insurance, we will also enforce that. Also, we enforce child labor laws, cash payment, unlicensed contractors, etc. And the Retaliation Complaint Investigation Unit, like I stated before, investigates complaints alleging unlawful retaliation in the workplace. And every worker in California has rights. You have the right as a worker to file a wage claim or a report of labor law violation when your employer does not pay the wages or benefits you're owed. You have the right to file a retaliation claim if the employer retaliates against you for exercising your rights provided by the law. And I love California because California labor laws protect all workers, regardless of immigration status. I can't stress that enough. If you do not have, regardless of what your immigration status is, please come talk to us. Tell us what the situation is, and we will tell you how to proceed about that. It is illegal for an employer to report or threaten to call immigration authorities on a worker for exercising their rights. It is illegal to file a false police report against a worker for exercising their rights. And also it's illegal to threaten relatives of a worker who exercise their rights. So see, there's so many things that an employer can do, might do, but it is illegal. And if something like that is to happen to you, please contact us. So right now, today we want to talk to you about basic protections. And to start off, I want to talk to you about California minimum wage. This is another reason why I love California so much. The minimum wage in California. I want to give you the effective date. As of January 1st of this year, employers with 25 workers or less, the minimum wage is $13 per hour. Employers that have 26 workers or more, as of January 1st of 2021, the minimum wage is $14 an hour. And you can see our table right here in 2022, that will change. And in 2023, we will be at $15 for everybody. So this is good information to have. For agricultural workers, I want to talk to you about what the overtime is for agricultural workers. The effective date for employers with 26 or more employees as of January 1st of 2021, the overtime is 8.5 hours per day or 45 hours per week. And as of January 1st of 2020, actually that information for employers with 25 or fewer employees, it will be 9 hours per day or 50 hours per week. All of this information, pre-existing overtime requirements for agricultural workers, including the 7th day of work in a work week, all this information can be found in the Wage Order 14, the Industrial Welfare Commission Order number 14, which is the one to regulate the hours, wages, and working conditions for the agricultural industry. And I want to give you some information for piece rate workers. An employee who is paid piece rate, that means you're not paid hourly, but for however many pieces you make. And this information is strictly for employees who worked between July of 2012 and December of 2015. You might be eligible to receive payment for unpaid back wages. But in order to qualify, you have to meet 3 requirements. That is, first, you had to have worked in California between July 1st of 2012 and December 31st of 2015. Then also you had to have been paid piece rate. That means that you were paid for each box or unit that you produced. And number 3, that you remember the name of your employer for that period of time, from July 2012 to December 2015. Again, a piece of advice that I want to share with you is save all your check stubs, your income tax records, any information from your employer, because you never know when you're gonna need it. But the name of your employer must appear on a list of employers who submitted payment for unpaid back wages. So if you are unsure if your employer made a payment on your behalf, you can give us a call. You can call us and ask us about this. And this is information that we have on file. So you please feel free to give us a call and we will let you know if your employer is on the list. So, and you also have a website, a link right here that you can direct yourself to get more information about this. Again, feel free to give us a call. And also, regarding the minimum wage, I gave you the information before for the state of California, but also there's some counties and cities with local minimum wage ordinances. And this is the list of cities and counties with different minimum wage. And these cities listed here will have different minimum wage. Some are more than 15 already, $15 an hour. So if you work in any of these cities and they're paying you $12, $13 an hour, give us a call and we can help you address that as well. Now I will leave the time for Patty.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Can everyone hear me now? Great. Thank you, Maria. So in addition to what Maria has mentioned in terms of basic protections, the following slides that I'm going to focus on include additional protections that we want you to be aware of in case you or someone you know, as the Labor Commissioner mentioned, now is the time, right, to assert your rights, to file the wage claim or call our office if you have any questions. So this particular slide focuses on overtime. Maria talked about specifically agricultural overtime, which is specific to the industry. This slide covers more generally what the California Labor Code says as it applies to the majority of industries. So in a regular work week, a person will typically work 8 hours a day or 40 hours in a work week. However, overtime is triggered if an employee works more than 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a work week. So if a person or an employee works more than 8 hours a day, their overtime rate is equal to what they would normally receive, or their normal rate of pay multiplied at time and a half. So by way of example, Maria mentioned that the minimum wage for employers who have 25 employees or less is $13 an hour. If you work over, say you work 9 hours or 10 hours, you take that 13-hour hourly rate, if that's your minimum, if that's what you're getting paid, and multiply that by 1.5 times, and that overtime rate would be $19.50. California law also has double time, which is triggered or happens when an employee works 12 hours or more on any workday. So in that same example, if you work a 12-hour day, a 13-hour day, your double time rate would be $26 an hour. Maria also mentioned what's called the 7th day premium, which basically means that if an employee is working a consecutive 7 days, that 7th day, the first 8 hours worked are calculated at time and a half, your normal rate of pay. And then if you work more than 8 hours on that 7th day, so hour 9 or 10 or 11, that would trigger double time. If you can go to the next slide, Maria, please. Thank you. Another example of a basic protection is rest periods. So an employer must provide or authorize a 10-minute uninterrupted rest period for every 4 hours worked. For rest periods, time records are not required, but if an employer does not provide that 10-minute rest period, then the employer must pay what we call a rest period premium, which is basically an employee's 1 hour of regular rate of pay for that denied rest period. And that's for each day that a rest period is not authorized. Another basic protection is meal periods, which similarly to 10-minute rest periods, an employer must also allow an employee to take 30 minutes of an uninterrupted meal period when working 5 hours or more in a workday. The meal period must be provided no later than the end of the 5th hour of work. And if an employee works 10 hours or more, then a second meal period, also of 30 minutes uninterrupted, must be provided by no later than the end of the 10th hour of work. In this case, the law does require employers to keep track of those meal periods. Meal periods do not have to be paid. Rest periods do have to be paid. And same with rest periods. If an employer does not provide meal periods, then an employee can claim that same penalty of the regular rate of pay at an hour for that missed meal period. It's important to note, both for rest and meal periods, that the limit for that penalty is 1 per day. So even if an employer is supposed to provide, say you work 8 hours and they're supposed to provide 2 10-minute rest periods, you can only claim the penalty once for the missed, even though you were supposed to take 2, you can only claim as part of the penalty that 1 rest period penalty. Thank you, Maria. Another basic protection that California workers have is called paid sick leave. And what that means is that if you work for an employer, you are entitled to take paid sick leave, which accrues from your very first day on the job. So what that means in terms of what it breaks down to is for every 1 hour that you work, you are, the opposite. For every 30 hours that you work, you are entitled to 1 hour of paid sick leave. And the employer can limit the accrued paid sick leave at either 24 hours in a calendar year or 3 days. While paid sick leave accrues from the first day of work, you can then start to use it after 90 days of working for that employer. And at the time that the worker is hired, the employer must provide their policies of paid sick leave in writing. An employee can use paid sick leave for several reasons, whether it's because you're absent because you're sick or your family member is sick. If you need to take that time off to go to the doctor's office to diagnose an illness or care or treat for an existing health condition, including reasons for leave such as taking a COVID test or self-quarantining because of potential exposure to COVID, then all these are reasons why an employee can take paid sick leave. You can also take paid sick leave if you need to take care of yourself or prevent someone in your family from getting sick or prevent yourself from getting sick. In order to take paid sick leave, you need only provide a request to your employer, and that request can be in writing or it can be verbal. An employer cannot tell you, nope, you can't take paid sick leave simply because you did not have a doctor's note. If you do take paid sick leave, the employer would need to pay you that paid sick leave on your next regular payday. And if you do take leave, your boss can't require you to specifically use this paid sick leave. It's up to the worker whether they decide to use paid sick leave if they need to take an absence and go see a doctor, for example. And that'll make more sense, I think, in the next slide. So additional protections for the type of paid sick leave that you can take include if you're a parent of a school-age child and you work for somebody who has 25 or more employees. What the law says is that you can take up to 40 hours per year to handle a school-related emergency such as a school closure, right? Which is what we're seeing a lot of because of COVID. So in that example, your boss, these 40 hours don't need to be paid. They can be paid or unpaid. It's up to the employer's policy. But what the employer cannot make you do is have you choose between paid sick leave, which is what we just covered, and this additional protection. That is up to the worker and in terms of what they decide or what type of paid sick leave or sick leave they want to take. And again, parents can take paid sick leave to take care of their children or take these leave days for preventative care as well. And if you as an employee assert your rights and tell your boss, I need to take this type of sick leave, and they retaliate against you, like say they demote you, they fire you, they suspend you, then that would be retaliation. And we have anti-retaliation laws that Sherrie will cover next. But before we segue there, I did want to very briefly mention that California law as well as federal law did have supplemental paid sick leave, which basically was sick leave specific to any COVID-related reasons that a worker might then have to miss a day or multiple days. And under California law, as well as federal law, depending on the size of your employer, you could take this type of supplemental paid sick leave. That type of supplemental paid sick leave expired on December 31st of 2020. However, if you or someone you know had a claim for what for time that you were supposed to get paid because you couldn't work because of COVID related reason, then your claim will be heard by the Labor Commissioner's office. It's just important to remember that it did expire on December 31st, 2020. So there are multiple options for sick leave. As has been mentioned by my colleagues, if you have any questions or feel that you were not paid what you were owed, please call our offices and talk to us so that we can help you figure out your next steps. Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Sherrie.
All right, thanks, Patty. So yeah, so let's talk about retaliation. So what is retaliation at work? So next slide. So yeah, so retaliation occurs when an employer takes action such as firing or reducing your work hours or moving your job to a further away location because you spoke up, right? Because you took steps to enforce your labor rights. That can look like raising questions about lack of PPE, et cetera. We'll go into that. So pretty much retaliation is an action, a negative action that your employer took against you for speaking up. When you exercise your workplace rights, you are protected under anti-retaliation laws, and we'll go into a little bit more about that in the coming slides. I'm sorry. So some examples of protected activities, that means, you know, the things that you do to speak up, is you can ask for your owed wages. So say it's payday and you haven't got paid, or all of your hours aren't calculated on your check, and you approach your employer. That's a protected activity because it's illegal not to pay people for work that they performed. Another protected activity is simply filing a claim with the Labor Commissioner's office, whether your employer finds out because you told them you filed or they get a notice in the mail. That is a form of you exercising your rights. Another protected activity is when you complain about a health or safety issue. Again, in these times, that could be lack of PPE, sanitizer, gloves, goggles, a weird smell, you know, for speaking up about that, you do have a right to do that. And because some of the things could be harmful to your health. So also, as Patty discussed, taking paid sick leave. You must have paid sick leave, you know, to take, but taking it, you should not be demoted or fired or left off the schedule, right? Another protected activity is taking time off to appear in court, to comply with a subpoena. You know, you need to breastfeed your child, or participating in a proceeding with the Labor Commissioner's office, such as attending a wage conference or a wage hearing. Next slide, please. So in these times, in these pandemic times, it's important for workers to know their rights as it relates to COVID-19 and protections for that. So workers have the right to use sick days or attempt to use to exercise the right to use them, meaning that you know, if you have them available, you know, they're available, or if you don't know if they're available, you can ask your employer. You should have the right to do that. That's legal. You should be able to do that free of retaliation. As I mentioned before, requesting PPE. You know, if you're interacting with the public, you know, sometimes you need that protection, those barriers. Filing workplace complaints. These are some of your basic rights. Refusing to perform work that you will that is dangerous, right? You know, it could put you in imminent danger. And also this new there's a new protection called exclusion pay that came out this year, and it's basically if the employer excluded you from the workplace due to COVID-19, meaning that you told them, or they know that you went somewhere and they were like, you know, I think you don't need to be back at work. Like, you got to sit at home. They should pay you for that. Like, they're excluding you. They, you know, so that's something that you can learn more about by contacting our office. And yeah, we'll go to the next slide. So these are examples of acts of harm that your employer, that typically employers could take against someone as a result of them speaking up and engaging in a protected activity. What that can look like is termination, transferring you to the middle of nowhere, demoting you to a lower paying position or a position that doesn't have, you know, as much responsibility. It can be a suspension, reduction in your work hours or pay, immigration related threats, right? Threatening to call you, call ICE, or asking to re-verify your immigration documents all of a sudden, you know, like that's retaliation. Also, the obvious assault or like false police reports, and also a retaliation by association. So basically, it could have not even been you that engaged in the protected activity, right? It could have been your family member who did it. But because your employer knew that that was your family member, they take action against you as a form of punishment to send a message to try to silence the rest of the workplace. So there is something, you can file a claim regarding that as well. Yeah, okay. Next slide. So retaliation, right? We define it in our office as you exercising your rights. Your employer knows about that exercising of your rights. Something bad happens, right? An adverse action, and that there's a connection between you speaking up and the punishment. Now, in doing that, in exercising your rights, you do not want to give your employer a legal reason for firing you, because firing somebody or retaliating against somebody because they spoke up is illegal, but there are legal reasons you can let somebody go. So you don't want to approach the employer in a non-respectful way. So tips, these are some helpful tips when exercising your workplace rights. You want to be respectful and follow the rules on the books, right? The handbook, you know, training, you know, you want to follow those rules. And you want to, even if your employer is being disrespectful, and I know it may be hard to do, but it'll be great if you could take the high road, because we want to make sure that we don't give them a reason to say, well, we let them go because of this, when we know because you spoke up, right? If possible, try to raise your questions about your missing paycheck or your lack of breaks. Try to do it in a respectful email, you know, or a respectful text message, right? To try to document, because when we conduct our investigations, all of that is considered evidence and it can help you in the end. So that, and also if possible, if you're not able to email or text, try to have a friend or a coworker be around in earshot so they can hear you express the concern, because you want to have be able to say you complain, because some employers will say, oh, they never brought it up, oh, you know, they never had a problem, or they never made any complaints, right? So you definitely want to have that documented. And also, when your employer is responding to you raising your concern, you want to be able to listen carefully. You can take notes either during or right after the conversation, and you want to retain all the documents that you signed or they provided you as it's for your records. So, so now, how do you file a wage claim, or how do you file a claim? I'm sorry, retaliation. I got to speak slowly for the interpreters. I'm sorry. Let me slow down. Okay, so let's see. This is mine, right? Okay, is this my slide? Right. Yes, I guess it is. Okay. I believe it is. Okay. So, how do you file a claim or report if your rights are violated, right? In filing a wage claim, there's a 3-year statute of limitations. So say, for instance, if I've been working for the same employer or a different employer, and I know, and I think like, now that I'm coming to this training, and I know that, wow, I didn't get any breaks, or wow, I did not get paid overtime. You can file a complaint going back to 2018, right? 2018, 19, 2021, right? So 2018, you could go back 3 years, okay? After 3 years, it's out of the statute of limitations, and we cannot investigate or try to recover your unpaid wages. Filing and I'll go into how you can file the complaint, but these are the things you can file a complaint on for wage claim. You know, any work that you performed and you were not paid for, you can file. If you did not receive your final paycheck when you were terminated the same day, you can file. You know, overtime, lack of rest breaks, unpaid sick leave when you had paid sick leave. You can file claims for those things within 3 years. The BOFEI complaint, you can file that online, which is awesome. So basically you can file anonymously if you notice that if your employer is violating any of our labor laws as far as wage and hour. You know, we will investigate the workplace as a whole. If you are personally seeking damages, you have to file the wage complaint. And lastly, the retaliation claim. We recently expanded our statute of limitations to 1 year. And you can file that complaint online as well, which is awesome. But we do take all these complaints in US mail, but you are also able to submit them electronically. Yeah, so basically how to file a claim. We have a very user-friendly website. If you get a chance, check it out. But like for individual claims, you know, you can submit them. You can download the form. It's called a F1. If you go to our website, you can fill it out, make it look all nice and neat, print it out, and you can email it to us, email it to the office where you closely worked. So if you worked in San Bernardino, you want to file with the San Bernardino office, you can submit it via mail. Those are the best options. We do have drop boxes at some of our offices, but we are not technically open to the public at this time. Let's see here. And what does it say? Only the retaliation and anonymous or public complaints can be filed online. Right. So even though you can submit the wage complaint online, it's not actually like filed online. You have to like email it to us. Yes. Okay. And so yeah. So this presentation was brought to you on the behalf of the RAP project. And what is the RAP project? It is our Workplace Rights Ambassador project. So it's a project implemented by our wonderful labor commissioner and the labor commissioner's office to help build a bridge between our office, the labor commissioner's office, and worker populations like yourself, you know, that experience and, you know, have functional needs, you know, experience on the job trauma. We want to be able to bring things to you that can help you exercise your rights and have that open line of communication. You can reach us by phone, but we definitely want to build a relationship. That's the goal of these presentations. And yeah, so these are some resources here. I believe they're going to be shared in the chat. They include our website. And also, if you have a specific complicated type of question, you can email us. If you have questions about COVID, give us a call. If we're not able to, you know, answer the phone call, you know, the question you have on the phone call, you can shoot us an email at any of these resources here. And lastly, you know, the presenters here, we have our contact information. So, you know, that there it is there, and that my phone number is updated, which is, oh no, it's not. Okay, that's not my phone number. But that's my email address. My new phone number is 620-2734. And I thank you. This was an empowering experience for me, and I hope it was for everybody who attended. I think I'm going to transition to the individual who's going to close this out.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Wonderful presentation. That was a lot of really good information. I know it's a lot of stuff I wish I would have known back when I started working. Would have been very helpful, but I'm glad we're able to get this information out for you guys. So now we're going to transition into the Q&A portion. I know we had some come in that Dora was able to answer, but just for the folks that can't see the screen or the questions, I'm just gonna go over them. And then Dora, if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief answer, or I can read off the answers you typed in the chat as well. First one is, will this webinar be posted for later viewing? I believe that's a yes. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, it should be. Let's see. Yes, okay, it's definitely going to be available. Perfect. Okay, next one is, are there any costs included with seeking services through the Labor Commissioner Office for retaliation? If there is a case, do I have to pay for anything?
The answer is no. That's the great thing about our office. It's free to file any of the claims that I just mentioned. And our process is designed where you don't necessarily need an attorney, right, to help guide you through the process.
If I can add, if I can add, like,
yeah, go
Sherrie,
ahead.
that's also true for filing, like Sherrie mentioned, a wage claim, or filing a report or a claim with BOFEI. Also, if people have or need interpretation for their hearings, there's a box on the claim forms that you check to say I need an interpreter, and that's provided to you by the state. So another reason to consider, well, in addition to asserting your rights, we are a resource, and it's at no cost to the worker who wants to file a claim.
Got it. Okay. Thank you guys. Next one is, how do I know if I'm entitled to paid sick leave, and has it changed in response to COVID?
So the California workers have a statutory right. And when I say statutory, I mean the law says you have that right. And that's what I covered in that slide that talked about your right to have the 3 days or 24 hours of the right to take leave if you're sick, if you need to take care of a sick family member. In addition to paid sick leave, the state provided supplemental paid sick leave. Unfortunately, that did expire. So if you were sick before December 31st of 2020, and you remember, hey, I was sick and I had to take time off and I wasn't paid, even though that leave protection has expired, you can still file a wage claim with our office for any time that you had to take off up through December 31st, 2020. But even if, say, for example, in that same quarantine period that you had to take off, your time off was, say, January 1st or 2nd or 3rd, but it's still part of that same quarantine period. You could still claim that time if you weren't paid. Or you asked for it and the employer denied you that leave. That's another example of where you can file a claim with our office. So whether or not you qualify, everyone qualifies for paid sick leave. There are some limited exceptions, but when in doubt, file your wage claim. Supplemental paid sick leave will depend on the size of your employer. So there was federal supplemental paid sick leave, which is for 500 employees or less nationwide, if that's how many employees were employed by a certain company, for example. And supplemental paid sick leave applied to, for California, was for 500 workers or more. So it meant to fill in that gap for the federal law. In addition to that, Sherrie mentioned exclusion pay. So that is actually, we enforce a very small part of that regulation. It was passed by CalOSHA, which there's a whole list of requirements about safety protections for workers in light of the COVID pandemic. But like Sherrie said, if the employer says, hey, I think there was a COVID exposure on the work site, you guys have to go home, then that time that you left and you couldn't work from home, that time has to be paid. So, and again, there are some exceptions as to who qualifies for that. But if you know that you were required to leave the work site because of a possible COVID transmission or exposure and you weren't paid for that time, call our office, email us your questions, and definitely assert your rights by way of a wage claim or a BOFEI claim or an RCI claim. I did want to clarify something very quickly. Sherrie did mention the 3-year, Sherrie mentioned that 3-year window for filing a claim. If you think you're out of time, call our office anyway, because there might be instances where, say, if it's a written contract, that window of time actually expands by a year. It just really depends on the type of protection you're claiming, what you're saying, what rights were violated, and whether or not your employment contract is in writing. Or anytime you work for an employer, you have a contract with that employer. It's going to be in writing or it's going to be verbal. So if it's verbal, generally those are 3-year statutes of limitations, as Sherrie mentioned, but don't, just what I would suggest is just call the office and getting your claim. And if it's too late, then it's too late. But when in doubt, you want to file that claim.
Perfect. And then just to go off that question, Patty, would the same type of rules apply to, let's say, like if you had a child or a dependent that was in the same situation, like got sick or was possibly exposed?
So for paid sick leave, yes, you paid sick leave covers not your third cousin removed from, you know what I mean? Like there's certain qualified family members, including
right,
a sick parent and a sick child, that would also apply under supplemental paid sick leave. To be honest, I'm not clear on I think the exclusion pay is specific to the worker. It's because that's triggered when the employer tells you, the worker, you need to leave because you were exposed to COVID. So I think that might be, and I'm not sure on this, that might be the difference, right? Where that might apply specifically to a worker, not a family member.
Right. Okay. Cool. Thank you for explaining that. Well, we've got a few more questions. Thank you guys, everyone, for sending them in. Next one is, do the wage theft protections apply to gig workers like DoorDash?
I'm sorry, Suzanne, would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, sure. It says, do the wage theft protections apply to gig workers like DoorDash? If you're not familiar, it's like Uber Eats, like any type of food delivery where it's a single person that will drive over to the restaurant, pick up the food, and then deliver it to like a residence or business.
So the I don't know if Maria or Sherrie want to chime in on this one. I'm happy to. So
only thing I would say before you jump in is, I think like how you mentioned, like when in doubt, just file. Like, let us tell you no, maybe, I don't know, but I'll let you handle it.
I would agree with that. So some of you might have heard Proposition 22 was passed in November of this last election year, which was heavily lobbied by Uber and Lyft. And I believe DoorDash is owned, or if not owned, it's definitely in that same category of workers who are part of the gig economy. So unfortunately, well, that law passed, and the current lay of the land is that, and it's being litigated in the courts. I believe it's still being litigated. There's a lot of legal reasons that folks are arguing as to why that law should be overturned. But wage and hour protections for workers in the gig economy, I would say, are developing, right? When in doubt, file your claim. It depends when the when you felt your rights were violated, because up until November of 2020, there was no Prop 22. So if your rights were violated before, then that might change after the passage of Prop 22. So and I don't want to get into like the specifics of what happened with the election year, but basically Prop 22 changed the protections afforded workers in the gig economy, including Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, and drivers like Postmates and DoorDash and whatnot. So it is possible that because of Prop 22, if you felt your rights were violated after that law was passed, that you may not be able to qualify in filing your wage claim. But again, when in doubt, file. We don't turn calls away or claims away on the phone. Our policy is that if someone on our public information duty line has questions about whether you actually qualify for a wage claim, they take it to their senior or management, and that's when we decide if we can move forward. And if still we don't know, they send it to our legal section for a referral. So I know I'm being a little bit iffy here, only because Prop 22 did pass, and your ability to file a claim if you're a worker in that sector might have also been impacted. And it also depends when your rights were violated. If it was before the passage of that proposition, then you're more likely to be able to move forward in the wage claim process. If it happened afterwards, that's up in the air, but I would still suggest that you file your claim.
Got it. Okay. Wonderful. So next question is it illegal for an employer to fire a worker for talking to other workers about organizing a union?
Well, yeah, but yes, but that would probably be more in the NLRB jurisdiction, like the National Labor Relations Board. They can file a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board. They have, and I'll let Patty jump in, but yeah.
Yeah, I've not heard of a claim, well, a wage claim, right? That's a different set of facts. And I do agree with Sherrie's point that that's probably a claim that deals with your right to file, to form a union. And if you face that adverse action, like you're fired, that's probably something that would, that's more in the National Labor Relations Board would have the authority to decide. But I don't know, Sherrie, if say there's retaliation against a worker who is trying to form a union, whether that's a claim that our retaliation unit would handle.
It depends, because, if you're discussing your working conditions, there are retaliation, labor codes related to that, Labor Code 232. So we have about over 45 different labor codes that we enforce in the retaliation unit, and they're on our website. And again, that goes to it, like when in doubt, just file. We'll direct you. If we can't help you, we'll direct you to the right agency that has jurisdiction over your issue.
Okay. Just want to make sure it's okay with you guys that we keep going. There's a few more questions. Are you guys good with that?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Next one is, let's see. What happens if my business must close due to a COVID outbreak? Do they have to compensate me?
So this is, when you say my business, I assume the person asking the question is an employee, right?
It seems like it, yes.
Right. So if your employer has to shut down their business because of COVID exposure, and you're forced to, so you can't go to work, then that's where exclusion pay, which was just implemented or made effective November 20th, I believe, of 2020. So literally just like 2 months ago. So if you were told by your employer, you need to go home, I can't have you work right now because I'm closing down my shop because of a possible exposure. And you can't work from home, but you're able to work, but you can't. Then that time is compensable up to 10 days, which is the quarantine period under the governor's laws, if you will. So that's one option for you, right? Your employer sends you home. You say, well, I'm entitled to exclusion pay me. And if they don't pay you at your regular rate of pay for those 10 days, then you should consider filing a claim with our office.
Okay, perfect. Next one is the Labor Commissioner Office bilingual, and will they be able to protect my undocumented status?
Yes, actually, I'm happy to say that we have bilingual services. We have staff that is bilingual in English, Spanish, Mandarin, Cantonese, Tagalog, off the top of my head. But also, if we do not have a staff person there that speaks your language, we have resources that we can get a hold of so that we can get an interpreter in your language. So feel free to come, to call us right now, right? Call us, get in touch with us, and we will, like Sherrie said, if we don't have the resources at hand, we will find them. But we will not let you go without an answer.
Awesome, cool. Okay, we have another question. Do you support cases where a worker experiences sexual harassment at their job?
I'm pausing to see if Sherrie wants to, from a retaliation standpoint, or Maria, not to put you guys on the spot.
Man, you know, like I hate to like give answers that like tell people no, we can't help you, you know, but like usually when I get that question, I would direct them to the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, but I'll let you jump in, Patty.
No, I think those are, I think that falls more within the, so we're another state agency, which is called the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. They enforce different laws that protect people who might be treated differently based on gender, and as well as, so that is an example where you're being harassed because of potentially, right, your gender, then that's a claim that you would probably, I'm not going to say probably, I think is more appropriate for the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And the reason why I paused just a little bit was because I wondered if in retaliation, you assert your right, you say, hey, you're sexually harassing me, and then you're fired, if that's the type of claim that would fall under retaliation. But I would suggest definitely call the Department of Fair Employment and Housing.
Great, okay. Next question is, can your colleagues deny you a position due to the fact that you filed a previous HR complaint against them?
I think it would depend on what the complaint entailed. Because if you made a complaint that your employer was violating a state, federal, or local law, or workplace health and safety concerns, or you weren't getting paid, like that could have been a protected activity, you know? So it depends. I'll let others jump in.
Yeah, also Dora wrote in the chat, this is exercising your rights as Sherrie is talking about. This is retaliation if you're denied a position due to filing a claim with the Labor Commissioner Office, or for exercising your labor rights, right? Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that qualifies as an adverse action, right? You weren't demoted, but you weren't promoted if you asserted a workplace right. So I really loved Sherrie's explanation of, you know, that connection, right? You complained about something bad happened, which that's an example here. So if that's the case, then I would suggest filing a complaint with our retaliation unit.
Okay. Let me just go through the questions really quick and make sure I got all of them. 1 second. Okay. Are they bilingual? Sexual harassment, we got that one. Did we talk about this one already? Will I be protected if I file a claim against my current employer? We did that one already, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So will you be protected if you file a claim against your current employer? Huh. Actually, the employer could take adverse actions against you. So just like, I think about it like the red light, right? It's there and you know you're not supposed to take a red light. However, some do and has to face the consequences, right? It's the same with the labor laws. If it doesn't mean that the employer will not violate the law. It doesn't mean that when you exercise your rights as workers, he will not take adverse action. He can, and some do, but that's why we are committed to help you. Contact us, call us. Hey, I exercised my rights as I file a claim against my employer and he is taking adverse action against me. So like Sherrie said, document everything. If you have to write it down on a piece of paper so you don't forget, write it down, then clean it up on a nice, notebook so you have it at hand. Any documentation the employer gives you, save it. Make sure there's witnesses, and if there's no witnesses, no one heard the conversation between you and the employer, make sure you follow up that conversation with a text, like she said, a very respectful text or email, and say, I understand that based on our conversation, this and this and this and this and this, it's happening. So you have a record of that. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you, yes, I wish we had a bubble, right? That after you file a claim, we can activate it and nothing is going to happen. Unfortunately, that's a fantasy world and it's not happening like that, but contact us immediately after something is happening. Ask us, we're here to help you. And like I said, provide you hopefully a good answer to your question.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria. I believe those are all the questions we have for tonight. If there's any that I missed or you have a burning question, we're going to have the information in the chat for where you can find us, Buen Vecino, RISE, the Labor Commissioner Office. So that'll be in the chat with links. We're also on Instagram, Facebook. So yeah, if there's nothing else, I just wanted to open up to the panelists really quick. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add before we wrap up?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Definitely.
We really appreciate you guys coming. Thank you to all of our wonderful panelists. That was a beautiful presentation and a lot of really good information. Thank you to our viewers for coming and asking great questions and opening the discussion about labor rights. I know this is such an important topic and we can't always rely on our company or HR to stick up for us. And this is like extremely crucial information for everyone to have, not just you, but for your family, for your friends. So again, thank you so much and I hope you all have a wonderful night. Please reach out to us via Instagram, Facebook, like I said. And yeah, thank you again.
as I detox those working against addiction, fighting against eviction, the culture workers, musicians, and artists on a mission to transform our community with care and conviction, to single parents making miracles each week, and to our elders for the truth and the courage you speak, to ancestors whose hard work paved the way, and to everyone who's out there doing labor today, to my indigenous people and our creator too. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, so thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I booted everybody. I'm going to go stop my recording if anyone's still around.